Hello, scholars. I'm going to go over chapter 10 and give you some pointers so that'll help you with your assignment in the Mindtap, which is in Cengage. Let's get over to that. Right now I'm in Canvas, as you can see. And I'm looking at assignments. So let's look at MT, stands for Mindtap. Let's find chapter 10, Mindtap, which has to do with protecting your property. So what does that mean? Does that mean standing in front of your property with a big bat? No. Protecting your property financially is having insurance in case something happens. Believe me, things happen. So I'm a firm believer in insurance. So here we are. Let me just do a new share. Just want to make sure we're looking at the same thing. Okay. So let's do this financial planning exercise. Let's see. My award is a homeowner. See if we can make this screen a little bit bigger. See if I can make it a little bit bigger. Try. I'm not sure, but we're going to give it a whirl. Okay. So the answer is yes or no, but then you have to proceed to explain your answer. So if you insure it 100%, it's going to be $150,000 worth of coverage. However, the premium might be too high for you. So rather than not insure it at all, you would want to at least what they call co-insurance. That's where the majority is insured by the insurance company, and then you'll pay a certain percentage. So according to the textbook, a 90% co-insurance clause on a homeowner's policy would not be better than an 80%, unless the homeowner could only obtain a policy with a 90% co-insurance clause. What does this mean? A 90% co-insurance clause would require Ms. Meyer to buy at least enough insurance to equal 90% of the replacement value of his property. If she had less coverage than that, then Ms. Meyer would be required to pay a proportional share of the loss. If she had at least that amount of coverage, then she would be reimbursed for the covered losses after meeting her deductible. Then she would be reimbursed for covered losses, dollar for dollar, up to the amount of the policy limits. With an 80% co-insurance clause, she could get by with purchasing a little less insurance and still receive full coverage in the event of loss. Okay. Let's continue with the next problem. So let's look at this one. This has to do with covering your insurance policy. Let me see. 1 second while I just want to make sure that we're both looking at the same screen. All right. So here's a new share. We're going to look at some vocabulary. This is also part of your assignment. So here are some of the terms that you could possibly have. So the value, all right, let me give you some terms. So I'll put them in the chat box. Here's some possible answers. So you have something called property insurance. Another term is claims adjuster. Another term is actual cash value. And then there's the principle of indemnity. It's also liability insurance. Now, for those of you accountants out there, you have heard this term liability. Liability is money you owe someone, and it's also a situation where you would be liable if someone got hurt. Let's say someone tripped in front of your house, or maybe you had a barbecue and someone hurt themselves. So you would be liable, and your homeowner's insurance would take care of that if someone got hurt. But let's take a look. I just want to move this box out of the way. The value calculated it as the difference between the insured asset replacement cost and the value of its physical depreciation. So what it costs to buy, let's say your house burns to the ground, just a bunch of ashes. What does it cost to rebuild the house using the same footprint of what you had before? That's the replacement cost. But then there's also something called physical depreciation. So let's say your house was built in 1950. That house is depreciated over time, lost some of its life. So what do you think based on the terms I gave you? Let's take a look. Let's do the drop-down menu. So the claims adjuster is a person, liability insurance is insurance, negligence is something else, peril. So this looks like a good choice, actual cash value. Let's see what happens. This insurance coverage protects against the financial consequences that may arise from the insured's responsibility for property, loss, or injury to others. Just as I said, you had that barbecue and somebody got burnt by the barbecue pit. They were playing football and they banged into the barbecue pit and one of the charcoals burnt their leg or something. I mean, these things happen. People are horsing around during a barbecue. So it's not a claims adjuster, that's a person again. So that sounds like, let's do the drop down. That sounds like property insurance. Okay, look at the next choice. This value does not deduct the amount of insured assets physical depreciation and reflects the entire amount necessary to repair, rebuild, or replace an asset at the current market price. So let's see what that is. Okay, let's see, replace something at the so that sounds like replacement cost. It's got the word replacement, and there's the word replacement in here somewhere. Replace. That sounds like a good choice. That was something I left off. Replacement cost. The insurance coverage protects your home or automobile against damage and theft. Okay, let's see what the choices are. That sounds like property insurance again. What does everybody think? Let's try that. But we did put it up here. So maybe this is not correct. That might be, maybe this one is liability insurance. You're liable for the injury. And this one's property. Your personal belongings, your personal big ticket fixed assets. This concept maintains that an insured should not benefit excessively from having insurance coverage and should not be compensated for more than his or her economic loss. So in other words, you can't double dip. You can't have two insurance policies. You lose something like a car, and then one insurance pays you to replace the car, and another insurance pays you to replace the car. It doesn't work that way. So that one, let's see what the choices are. So that sounds like, claims adjuster liability negligence. I think might be principle of indemnity. So let's see what it says. Let's grade this now and see if our choices are accurate. Okay, so they're all correct. They're all correct. Some things they didn't talk about: actual cash value. Insurance coverage, which pays the actual cash value of a damaged or destroyed item, pays an amount calculated by subtracting the insured property amount of physical depreciation from its replacement. So let's just put this in the chat box so that you can look at it later. Okay. All right, let's go on to the next question. So that was worth, I think 1 point, that one. Let's see, back to assignment. Let's do this one. This one has 9 points, so let's take a look at this one. Protecting your property. The form and format for personal automobile insurance. Let me just find that. So this is number 8 in the assignment in Mindtap. Let me just locate it. Hopefully I have it here. Question 2. Okay. What coverages are provided in personal automobile policy? As with the homeowner policy, which we discussed in the first question, the personal automobile policy, PAP, is a comprehensive policy. Why? Because it includes several types of coverages bundled into one package. So you have collision, the damage on your car. You have if someone in the accident gets hurt, that's also covered. Let me just find this in my book here. Hopefully I have it. Let's see. So let's see what we have. This pays for bodily injury or property damage caused by an automobile accident for which you are legally responsible. So let's see what that is. Let me pull this up a little. The choices are basic policy provisions, medical payments coverage, vehicle damage coverage, liability, uninsured motorists, insured duties. So it sounds like the medical payments coverage. Let's see if that works. Okay. This pays for, let's see some of the choices. Reasonable and necessary accident-related expenses for up to 4 or 3 years after the accident, provided those expenses do not exceed the policy's life. So I believe it is 3 years. What kind of insurance is that? This covers accident-related expenses. This sounds like basic policy provisions. Let's see if that looks right. Now, this coverage is designed to protect policyholders, including the named insured and his or her family, when they are negligently injured by hit and run. So sometimes somebody hits people, you hear it on the news, it's not like a person got hit and then the car just drove away and didn't stop to give their information. So what is this coverage? This is for uninsured motorists, probably. Let's see if that's correct. This part of PAP, we just saw PAP before, provides 2 types of optional protection. Comprehensive and medical. No, collision. 2 types, comprehensive and collision. And that is, I believe, the basic policy provisions. So now what is E? Let's go down here. So we have insurance companies can express their liability coverage either using combined limit or split limits. The split limit is used such as 100, 300, 100. Then the second term in the limit expresses the maximum dollar amount the insurance company will pay for each person's injuries, I believe. All right, so let's take a look and see. Let's just see how we did on the top here. All right. Okay, so this pays for bodily injury. So medical payments coverage is incorrect. Let's see if it's this one. Liability coverage is correct. And this pays for accident related. So that would be maybe vehicle damage. Let's see if that's correct. No. Okay. Okay. So the medical payments coverage pays for reasonable and necessary accident-related expenses for up to 3 years after the accident, provided those expenses do not exceed the policy limit. This part in the PAP provides 2 optional protections. So PAP has comprehensive coverage and collision. And this is, let's see, maybe it's this one. Let's see. So vehicle damage coverage is comprehension and collision. Collision is the damage on the vehicle. All right, so we answered liability, medical. We did vehicle damage. We did liability coverage, uninsured motorists. Put that there. Let's see. No, maybe that's here. right, let's go. It's a matching. Insured duties and responsibilities. So that's going to be E. Let's go back up again. So here's a synopsis. PAP stands for, again, personal automobile policy, and it has 6 parts. So let me put this in the chat box for you. All right. So I'm going to put this all in the chat box so you can have it. So you have liability coverage. Liability, remember I told you, you're liable for something, you owe something. You owe for, in this case, this pays for bodily injury or property damage. So you owe the persons that you damage their property. Sometimes these accidents, the cars go off the road. Sometimes they go up on somebody's lawn and hit into their homes. I'm sure you've seen that on TV and the news, in which you are legally responsible. This pays for reasonable, okay, so medical payments coverage pays for reasonable and necessary accident-related expenses, excuse me. So, and the uninsured motorist, sometimes you're driving and you have an altercation, an accident with someone who doesn't have insurance. So this is designed to protect policyholders, including the name insured and his or her family, when they negligently injured by a hit and run uninsured driver. So vehicle damage provides comprehension and collision, so you can get your car repaired. All right. So most states allow you as a policyholder to seek reimbursement for your medical expenses up to the limit of your policy, even if the following are true. So if you haven't paid for your premium for the past 6 months, you will be reimbursed for medical expenses. You are occupying a vehicle that is not covered by the policy. So if you're driving someone else's car, you will still get reimbursement for your medical expenses. 3 conditions must be met for you to receive compensation under the uninsured motorist coverage. They are: the only damages sustained in an accident are personal injuries. Property damages are not covered. So therefore, if you receive compensation under uninsured motorist coverage, you will get only for personal injuries that were sustained. Okay, so let's go back, take a look at the next question. See what we have here. Let me just take a look. Let's take a look at what are the basic principles of property insurance. The 2 major insurance that protect your real and personal property: they're property insurance and liability insurance. As several of the principles on which property and liability are based differ from underlying life and health, it is important that you're aware of these differences so you can structure your coverage. So the purpose of property insurance is to protect policy holders against the loss on their real property. And, of course, personal property. These contracts require policyholders to identify and describe the property that is covered and to specify the causes of loss, and called They have a name for, they're not pearls. They're definitely not pearls. They're perils. So when you have these causes of loss, they call them perils. That's insurance lingo. Okay. So there's also some sort of possible loss. I lost my house to Hurricane Sandy. Which of the following are typical causes of loss that usually limited or excluded from automobile insurance policies? So what's excluded from a homeowner or automobile insurance are mudslides, war, ordinary wear and tear, and an earthquake. And why is that? The reason is that policyholders carry property insurance policies because they protect them against losses to their real and personal property due to catastrophe or calamity. Catastrophe or calamity. These contracts require policyholders to identify and describe the property that is covered and to specify the perils or causes of loss for which a policyholder will be compensated in the event of loss. However, property insurance policies generally restrict their protection to carefully specified perils. So they don't cover just anything. So if you live in Florida and there's a lot of hurricanes, chances are they're not going to cover hurricanes because it's an everyday occurrence here. Not an everyday, but it's just a normal occurrence. Whereas in New York, with Hurricane Sandy, that was an unusual event, that perfect storm. And I had flood insurance, and I had 6 feet of water in my adorable little home. These policies also specify what's excluded. Among the perils usually limited or excluded are flooding, mudslides, earthquake, mysterious disappearance, war, nuclear radiation, ordinary wear and tear. Now, in the case of flooding, there is specific flooding insurance based on where you live. My insurance was very expensive when I lived in New York. It was $4,000 a year for a very small home. It's like a little cottage. So it's a very expensive insurance, flood insurance. Okay, so let's see what else we have here. So property insurance policies are based on the principle of indemnification. INDEMNIFICATION. I'm going to type that in the chat box. In big word. Then, hold on, let me get it spelled right. INDEMNIFICATION. Indemnification. Which maintains that an insured should not be enriched beyond his or original financial condition. So you're not allowed to make a profit on a loss. So I lost my home. My home was worth $300,000. I cannot collect $400,000 from the insurance company, and as a result, have some sort of enrichment of $100,000 more in the loss. This means the policyholder cannot expect to receive more, is the word, in compensation from the insurance company than his or her economic loss. As a result of this principle, property insurance policies often limit their reimbursement to the actual cash value of the damaged or destroyed property, which is calculated by subtracting the value of the item's physical depreciation from its current replacement. What does it cost to rebuild this whole house? Less depreciation. This depreciation usually results in wear and tear. Okay, so now we have a story about Daniel. Let me see if I can get this read because the person who reads it has an excellent voice. Yep, here it is.
Daniel.
Wait. Hang on a minute. Okay. So okay, so let me just stop her. Okay. So, okay. So Daniel was trying to save some money, but in the long run, he actually hurt himself. So the replacement cost was $4,000, but he decided that he would only get the actual. So Daniel can expect to receive only 2,400, not the 4,000. Okay, because it had an original cost of 2,400. That's when he bought it 4 years ago. The replacement cost is 4,000. So because he saved some money on his insurance policy, he actually got 1,600 less. So I don't know. Hopefully it was worth it, but I'm not so sure. Instead, if he had had the actual coverage, which he would have received. So if he had carried replacement cost and not actual cash value, he would have got the full 4,000, which would have been much better. So this is important. This is why you have to know these terms. So here we have the 4 years, 10 years. So he only owned it for a year and it depreciated 1,600. And that's why the actual cash value was only 2,400. That's how they computed that. Okay, so lastly, let's continue with this and we'll finish this up and we'll be done. Property insurance companies retain several rights and can impose several requirements to its policyholders. And first, it has the right to pay a claim. After it has paid a claim, the right of, okay, let me just find this. Let me see. I'm trying to find the right spot. Forgive me. Okay, for some reason, I'm on the wrong page. All right, let's see if we can muddle through with this without having the answer key in front of me. All right, so after it has paid a claim, it has the right of, let's see the choices, has the right of the insurance company to request reimbursement from either the person who caused the loss or the person's insurance company. Okay, so in other words, your insurance company, after it pays you, can turn around and try to seek some sort of payment from the other party involved. This is the right of subrogation, they call that. I'm going to type that in the chat box. They call that subrogation. So if you're a person who likes to watch Perry Mason shows or any kind of court shows, Law and Order, you may already have heard this term. Okay. The requirement of I think co-insurance probably, yes. So here you're insuring something with the insurance company. Excuse me one second. Okay. So you're co-insuring with the insurance company, which allows a policy, no, it requires, which is stronger language, a policyholder to buy insurance in an amount equal to a specified percentage of the replacement cost of the property. All right, so the next line says the blank clause, let's see what kind of clause is. It's indemnification, no, it's the other insurance clause. The other insurance clause states if a person has more than one insurance policy, which each company is liable for, only a proportional amount of loss based on its proportion of the total insurance covering the property. So if I had two insurance companies covering my flooded house, one insurance would pay one portion, another would pay another, equaling the total loss. So I wouldn't be enriched more than what I actually lost. So here's Julie, and she owns a house in Winchester, and she carries two insurance policies on it for whatever reason. The first policy carries a limit of $125,000 and the second of $95,000. Given a covered loss of $6,000, the first policy, okay, so the total loss is $6,000. And the total insurance she has is $220,000. So she's insured by more than. So the first policy is going to cover, say, this, and this is going to cover this. So guess what? If I add these two together, what am I going to get? I'm going to get $6,000 because she cannot collect more than $6,000. She can't collect $6,000 from here and $6,000 from here. They're going to pay a portion based on this, how much the coverage is. So property insurance companies retain several rights: the right of subrogation, the right of co-insurance, the other insurance clause. The insurance company can request reimbursement from the person who caused the loss. So let's say they have somebody who, I don't know, what do they call that? An arsonist sets fire to your house. So they will pay you for the home that was burnt down, but then ultimately they will seek remedy from the arsonist, if they, provided they catch this person. And the co-insurance requires a policy holder to, buy insurance in the amount equal to a specified percentage. So the other insurance clause also states if a person has more than one policy, this person had two policies, Julian, that each company is liable only for what they call a prorated amount. A prorated amount. This is a very important chapter, and one day you will have to be looking at these different policies, and they are very important. So it's good that you get even just a basic understanding about all these words and types of insurance, so that when you hear about them, it won't be the first time. All right, class. Good luck with Chapter 10, Mindtap. It's due November 1st. And, of course, it's you can have your book open while you're doing this work. Work. Your book can be open. It's an open book assignment. Good luck, and I'll talk to you on Wednesday. Bye-bye.